Okay, so let's talk about the PhD in Science starter kit. So we'll add value to your lives today. Does anybody have any questions before we start? It's very exciting, isn't it? With all the new faces, it's an exciting time of year. Isn't it? Like everything is new and exciting. New people, new teachers, new material. So let me ask you a few questions then. How many people here have been to a meeting? Anybody been here to a meeting? Yeah, everybody's been to a meeting before? Good. How many people have walked out of a meeting and then been thinking, wow, I have really no idea what I was supposed to take away from that meeting? Oh, that's good. How many people have been like on their way to a meeting and thought to themselves, oh, I'm not sure if I'm even ready, like how I should have prepared for this meeting. I'm not even sure I'm ready. Great, great. How many people have been in a meeting that never seems to end and just keeps going in circles? Good, good. Here's a really advanced one. How many of you have been in the middle of a meeting and thought to yourselves, haven't we already talked about this like before? Like, I think we talked about this 2 or 6 months ago. Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, good, good. So all of your problems are going to be solved today. Right, this is about how to conduct effective meetings, right? It's not that exciting. It's not. Right, I'm going to warn you. But it is ridiculously important. It is the cornerstone of your whole life, your whole professional life, how to conduct effective meetings. It is it's the key ingredient. Like as a student, I've had all those experiences, and I've been on like the positive side and the negative side of the meeting experience, right? So I know what the experience is like to be in an effective meeting, and in one that had all those qualities that I just asked you about. And I know that when I have meetings with students, if I don't follow my own guidelines, everything just goes south, right? So we're going to find out today how to conduct effective meetings. But before we do that, we'll just mention one caveat. This is no substitute for an advisor, right, or experience, right? We're not trying to come in here and substitute, like you need an advisor, right? You can't survive if you don't listen to your supervisor. Some of the things here are a little bit subjective, right? This is not a hard science, like a binary right and wrong science. And it's also meant to be a starting point as opposed to like the end. It gives you some place to start, which is very difficult, right? If you don't know where to start. The guidelines, basically you take the starting point and then you adapt it to your own environment. You specialize it to your own environment and you develop it to your own environment. So it's like if you're running a 100-meter race, I'm giving you the first 10 meters, right? And then it's up to you and your supervisor to run the rest of the 90 well, you run the 90, but the supervisor tells you which direction to run in. Right? So that's the idea. And the other interesting thing is I haven't seen any training quite like this anywhere. I haven't seen the whole world's training, but I haven't seen anything quite like this anywhere else. A lot of the seminar series for PhD students, most of them that I have seen consist of a set of invited, distinguished researchers like high-profile professors that come tell you about their success stories and then leave, which is great. It's great to hear about other people's success stories, but it's not, you don't get much takeaway from that. Like it doesn't really further your studies and your career, and it doesn't really necessarily speak to your individual needs, right? So let's talk about how to have the most amazing meetings of your life that are just like a dream come true. I even have a handout that you can post on your wall. Has anybody here ever used a minutes of meeting protocol before? One person? Two people? Okay, that's good. So this is a minutes of meeting protocol. And I already asked you some fun questions, right? Did I miss any? I think we covered all those questions. Oh, I missed one. Have you ever left a meeting and had no idea when the next meeting is? That's a very common experience, right? And you feel lost, right? You feel totally lost when that's true because you don't know if the focus of your work should be on like a week, 2 weeks, or a month, or 2 months. Like, yeah, but all the other questions. And trust me, I've experienced all of these things many times. So it's very common, right? And in fact, I would say ineffective meetings are the default. Like, if there's no structure and no protocol, by default, the meeting is going to be ineffective. And that's the typical meeting. That's the standard meeting. It's like the standard is being ineffective. Oh, I have some more. Yes, so we covered those critical questions, right, about ineffective meetings. So this is a minutes of meeting protocol. It's conveniently called Bob's Minutes of Meeting Protocol. And basically it provides a structure to your meetings, like a template structure. And you go into a meeting and you're trying to extract the relevant information that you need from that meeting. And this is like the template or the guidelines on how to do that. How do I organize the meeting? How can I extract the information that I really need? And how can I make it therefore very effective, right? So Bob's Minutes Meeting Protocol, it structures, instead of some unstructured conversation that has no direction and no organization, it suddenly imposes or introduces a structure to the conversation. So the structure is a list of topics discussed, right? A list of progress that you have made or your supervisor has made since the last meeting, right? You don't want that to be empty. And a to-do list at the end, not very profound, right? But very, very effective and very, very essential. And by following this protocol, you'll find that all those problems are solved. The ones that we just talked about. So the protocol introduces continuity and memory into your meetings. So before you go to your next meeting, you look at the notes from your previous meeting, your structured notes from the previous meeting, right? And that provides the continuity between meetings. And it avoids this thing where you think, didn't we already talk about this 6 months ago and now we're going in circles? Right? When your meetings have continuity and memory, that problem disappears. This helps you with your progress, right? So the to-do list is what you're supposed to do. That's the things, the actions that you need to take after the meeting finishes, right? That's what goes on the to-do list, right? What am I supposed to do between now and the next meeting? There's another subtlety to this, and that's large tasks are broken down into small tasks. It's a subtlety, but it's ridiculously important. Right, you have this thesis, it takes 3 or 4 years, it's a huge task. It's overwhelming. You don't know how to do it. Right? The key to reaching any goal or producing any product or studying any behavior or any large task, to completing any large task, is to break it down into small, manageable subtasks or units, subunits of tasks. That's how you solve any large problem, right? And a to-do list implicitly forces you or encourages you to do that. What do I need to do between now and my next meeting? That's what goes on the to-do list. So if there's a week between your meetings, it consists of tasks that are approximately a week. And it forces, well, it doesn't force anybody to do anything. I have used this word force. It encourages you to think of actions that are manageable in a short amount of time, right? And you discuss those tasks with your supervisor, right? So it features the date and the time, right? Each person that is present at the meeting is recorded in the protocol. Very, very helpful, by the way. As I mentioned, it has a list of topics that you discussed, right? That's not necessarily your to-do lists, but maybe you're talking to somebody and they mention an amazing web page or some amazing event or something, so you write down that in the topics discussed. The list of progress, right? So when you're preparing for your next meeting, you're thinking, oh, have I made any progress? Like, what progress have I made since the last meeting? And that, hopefully, your progress list is just your to-do list from the last meeting. So every item on the to-do list goes up to the progress. That's the ideal situation. Like, an item in the to-do list goes up to the progress in the next meeting, in the next minutes of meeting protocol. Now imagine you write down nothing in the progress, you've made no progress, then that's really important, right? That's really important. So then you think, okay, I need to discuss this with my supervisor. I've made no progress, right? This happens to a lot of people, by the way. It happens to a lot of people. I've just spent a year on my PhD and I feel like I've made no progress. If that happens, I can guarantee you that they're not following this minutes of meeting protocol, because you cannot follow this protocol and make no progress for a year. It's just not possible. Just because it's just not possible. Something would have to change, right? There's the to-do list, right? So you're trying to think of, okay, what exactly are the actions that I need to take, right? And you write them down in your to-do list, right? It's like a shopping list. You know, it might even be shopping, like it has like buy this. Sometimes it does have shopping. You do have to shop sometimes. And it has the date and the time of the next meeting, right? It's got it on there so you know when your next meeting is. Here's a question I didn't ask. And how many have you been in a situation where you're sending email back and forth to somebody trying to figure out when the next meeting is? Is it the most fun exercise in the world? It's so much fun to send, like, let's see if we can send 100 emails back and forth to figure out when the next meeting time is. I love it. Especially when it involves like 3 people or 4 people or more. Right? It avoids that horrible situation when you don't know. So you discuss it at the meeting. You don't leave until you've had a discussion. Oh, when is our next meeting? Right? And that avoids this sending a million emails, hopefully back and forth, trying to negotiate a meeting time. Right? And then when you've taken your notes, at least when I'm supervising students, we type them up and we actually keep them online. So they're in an online folder. And then we bring them up at the beginning of every meeting, right? The previous minutes of meeting, right? And for me, I cannot manage a project without this protocol. I cannot do it. So there's just an example of what a possible minutes of meeting looks like, right? It's not meant to be too complicated. It's simple, right? This is the way it should, it should be simple. Shouldn't be complicated, right? This is one meeting between me and 2 master's students, right? So, and it has like, in the to-do list, it has a name, sometimes it says both, and then Dylan, right, and it has progress that they made since the last meeting, right? We talked about random stuff, like I think I went on a trip to Portugal, so we talked about that, right? We talked about the visible lunch meeting, we talked about false fire alarms. On the 4th floor of Faraday Tower, that's where all the PhD students in computer science sit generally. There was a desk that was abandoned on the 4th floor, and it was an absolute mess. But it had an old computer. I think it had trash on it. It was full of papers. It was just like a landfill sitting inside the 4th floor. And nobody knew who it belonged to. Nobody. And I was wandering around one day, I said, what is that mess? Like, that is crazy. Like, this shouldn't be here. Like, this is a very valuable desk. And everybody said, we don't know who it is. We don't know, blah, blah, blah. We don't know if this student still exists or not. And so I walked over to the desk. It's like, well, it should be here. The answer should be here, like in the paper. And I started looking through the paper, and I picked up a minutes of meeting protocol. And I knew, okay, problem solved. Like, it had the date on it, which was like 30 years before. No, I'm exaggerating. Had the date, whose desk it was, like who was at the meeting. Problem solved immediately. So it has some magic qualities to it. Unexpected benefits that you didn't even know existed. And this is just one example, like, of a folder online that's got all the minutes of meeting in it, so we can look through and see what happened at each meeting. Right? Very, very good if you need to report your progress to somebody other than your supervisor. Some people need to do that. Does anybody actually have to do that here, where you have to report your progress to somebody that's not just your supervisor? Yeah. Outside third parties. This, like, if you're working with a company, for example, and they want to know what have you been doing. If anybody asks you, what have you been doing? Problem solved. Right? You have a complete history of what you've been doing. I had one student that I supervised his master's thesis and his PhD thesis, Matt Edmonds, the beautiful Matt Edmonds. And so he kept the minutes all in one folder for both degrees. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. It was amazing. Amazing. And we're still friends. Okay, so I know what you're thinking because I'm psychic. I'm partially psychic. Some of you have been thinking in the back of your mind, my supervisor doesn't follow this protocol. Like, this isn't going to work. Like, because we don't use this protocol. Like, it's just not going to work. Right? Like, am I right? Some of you are thinking this. Yeah, a lot of people don't use this. It's true. And in fact, most people don't use anything like this. Right? So it's going to be up to you to extract that information from your supervisor at your meetings. You could show them the protocol and say, can we follow this protocol, and see how they react. Some of them are going to be very happy, like, wow, where did you get this? This is cool. Some of them are going to be unhappy, like, oh no, we don't want structure. You're going to get a very positive reaction, generally speaking. I've gotten many positive reactions to this from other staff members. Right? The staff members want this too, actually. They do. But imagine you have a supervisor that doesn't follow any protocol. There's no reason why you cannot just ask these same questions in a meeting. For example, okay, I'm trying to write my to-do lists. Can you help me? Like, on my to-do list, I have, like, read this paper, get this experiment done, or start doing this, or buy these groceries. Does that sound right to you? You'd ask your supervisor, does that sound right to you? Like, for a to-do list, and they say, oh yeah, that's great. And then add one or two more things, right? And then you would write down your progress, and you would start the meeting by saying, like, look, this is what I've done since our last meeting. Who doesn't like to hear that? Like, what supervisor would not love to hear that? Right? Because that's what the first thing a supervisor asks for. Like, okay, what did you do since last time? Right? That's how the meetings might start off. And you can, before you walk out of there, you can say, oh, by the way, when is our next meeting? Like, what day, what time? I would rather just write it down now than exchange 100 emails, right? That's what everybody wants, right? So you can extract that information even if you're in an environment that does not actually use a formal minutes of meeting protocol. And I can tell you that as soon as you start doing this, your whole life will turn over. Like, it'll go from being upside down to right side up. Because I've gone through that experience where I was upside down in the meetings with all those problems. And then I learned a protocol from my PhD supervisor. He introduced it to me. He didn't put it in writing. He just said it orally. He said, okay, this is how the meeting should be structured. The only thing I did was I wrote it down. And as soon as he did that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, all those problems I used to have in meetings are gone. Like, the mystery surrounding the previous meetings. Everything flipped on the right side up. So it was an enlightening experience. I still remember it really well. And I even remember thinking, like, wow, this guy's really smart. Like, he really has his act together. This is going to work great. I remember thinking that. Okay, you can get a soft copy, by the way, of the Minutes of Meeting Protocol on the Doctoral Training Center seminar. Oh, the quality is quite bad. But that actually says College of Science Doctoral Training Center there, the Blackboard module. You can also just Google Bob's Minutes of Meeting Protocol. There's a copy on my webpage as well. And you can always find it. It's been there since 2006. So, any questions? Is everybody excited, as excited as I am about the protocol? It's exciting, isn't it? It's not that exciting, actually. But once you start using it, if you haven't used anything before, if you had no structure and no plan, and it was just a free, open discussion and you didn't know what to do, and all of a sudden you introduce this structure, it's going to be, your whole life is going to change. It's going to be a radical change. And you could, suddenly you're going to be productive. Suddenly things are going to happen. Good. Okay, we're done. Until the next time. Thanks, everybody.